What is up, YouTube? It is Style Gaming, or DSG, and I am back at it again with another Warframe video for you all today. And on today's video, I'm going to be covering one of the 3 different ways to make platinum in this game. Now that all my streams are pretty much being taken over on Twitch, I will be able to put more content, Warframe related content, on this channel, because so far most of my content for Warframe has strictly been streams. So this is just the first in a long line of different content and information for Warframe that I will be bringing on the channel, whether it be Riven reviews, it'll be different mod loadout, builds, things like that. I'll be bringing a lot more of that to the channel, along with the Anthem videos that are currently on the channel as well. I like to try and bring new players into Warframe, so outside of streams, it's nice to be able to talk to people, yes, but I want to try and bring other new players into the game, so I'll be doing guides for beginners, things like that on the channel. But because a lot of questions I get asked on my stream a lot are about my Rivens, how I make plat, everything like that. I'm going to be doing a 3-part guide on how to make plat in Warframe, and the first being Rivens. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into the video, and I'm going to tell you how to make plat by just selling and finding Rivens in Warframe. So first is know your weapon. Know the weapon that you're getting a Riven for. Know the weapon by the stats of the weapon. Know the popularity of the weapon, both how rare it is in game, the weapon or the Riven, and the demand of it in trade chat. By doing that, it will help you figure out the price of the Riven in the game. So by stats, what I mean is look at your stats of your weapon. If it's more of a crit-based weapon, go for crit on your Riven. If it's more of a status, go for status. Extra damage is always nice on melee weapons. Range, attack speed are 2 perks that are nice to have, along with extra crit or status, depending on the stats of the weapon. The next part is know your Rivens. Now, you may be asking, what do you mean by know your Rivens? I mean know your Riven disposition, because Rivens have a 5-star Riven disposition. 5 meaning the stats are going to be the highest on that Riven, 1 meaning the stats are going to be the lowest on the Riven. Rivens with 1-star disposition don't tend to sell for as much. Some do, like the Tigris, the Galatine, the War, things like that, the Soma. On occasion, those do, because those are, again, popular weapons. Going back to my first point where I was saying know your weapon and the popularity and the demand of them in trade chat. But Rivens that tend to have lower Riven dispositions don't tend to sell for much. Like I said, there are a select few, but not much. Also, know your veiled Riven prices. So your rifles, your pistol, and melee Rivens tend to go for around 15 to 25p veiled, and then your veiled shotgun Rivens tend to go for 50 to 100p as well. So keeping that in mind, don't ever sell an unveiled, or an opened, I should say, Riven for less than those, unless you're really just in need of plat and want to get rid of it. But honestly, again, it would be better to check the trade chat, see the demand of the Riven, and see if you can even get something off the Riven before you sell it cheaper than what you should. So most Rivens shouldn't tend to sell for under 15 plat, honestly 25 plat, but again, I know how some people are when it comes to making plat in this game. And the last part about the Rivens is know your stats. Now, by stats, again, I mean know about your positives and your negatives. People don't know that having 1 negative on a Riven is actually a good thing, because it increases the stats of your positives. Now, there's good negatives and there's bad negatives. So most bad negatives are negative crit chance, negative damage, negative slash, negative status chance. Things like that are bad negatives to have. Some weapons, it's kind of pointless, but then some, it's like, yeah, you really don't want a negative in those situations. Now, one that's a negative that is considered a positive is recoil. So if you have minus recoil, that's actually counts as a positive, and if you have plus recoil, that counts as a negative. That's the only one in that scenario. But some good negatives to have on at least, let's see, rifles or guns, like negative reload speed isn't bad. I know negative, I believe it's ammo max, not magazine. There's some negatives that are better to have. I know on melee weapons, it's like negative combo duration is like a great negative to have. Negative status duration, things like that are some better negatives to have. And then the last part is know your roles of your Riven. Again, when it comes to selling Rivens, most people don't buy Rivens with a lot of rolls. unless it is a god roll. But if it's not a god roll, then you're better off either selling it for endo or selling it cheap. That's the two things I can tell you, unless you really have a feeling that it's a god roll weapon that you have a Riven for, and you feel like you can get a better roll on it, then go for it. Kuva farm and roll the hell out of it. Now, the next part is no trade chat. Now, trade chat, the one thing I always say is be patient in trade chat, because trade chat is a waiting game, especially on PS4, because PS4 is known to have the worst trade chat in all of Warframe. Worse than Xbox, worse than PC. PlayStation trade chat is just horrible. So, patience in trade chat, and I always say on my streams, trade chat is a waiting game because it is 100% a waiting game. So don't expect to be sitting there, you post something, and then within a minute, somebody's going to reply, because that's typically not what happens. It's whenever I trade, that's why I try to do a lot of trades off stream, because my trade chat sessions tend to last for a couple hours, because that's how long it takes for me to sell stuff. Like, and sometimes even days. Like, I may be posting in trade chat for a complete day and not get a bite, but then the next day I log on, I may get it within 15 minutes of me being on. So again, trade chat is a waiting game. Don't expect to sell everything right away. If you do, great. If not, just wait a little longer, or like I said, just hold out until somebody gets it. Now, the next point of trade chat is don't haggle your prices if you have to. If you have a price in mind that you are trying to sell your Riven for, don't haggle. I know a lot of people do, but it's not necessary, because there's a lot of people in the game who give people set prices, meaning, oh, this is how much this Riven's worth. This is how much this Riven is worth. That's not true. As I've always said, nothing in this game has a price that is set in stone. Everything in this game is only worth as much as somebody is willing to pay for it. I may post a Riven and somebody will be like, there's no way I'm going to buy that Riven for 40 plat. And then the next person that replies will be like, I'll pick it up for 40 plat. Just because he's not going to buy it for 40 plat doesn't mean somebody in the game won't buy it for 40 plat. So don't haggle your prices if you don't have to. I know some people do haggle the prices if they're just getting desperate and want to sell their Rivens. But if you don't have to negotiate and if you don't have to haggle your prices, don't do it. Now, another key things to do in trade chat when it comes to selling your Rivens are filtering your trade chat to either the Riven that you have that you're trying to sell by going to trade chat. On PS4, I know it's triangle. It'll let you type in what it is. So if you're trying to sell a gram Riven, just type in gram, and the only thing that'll pop up in trade chat are people posting about the gram. If you want to just filter for your want to buy, just put WTB, and it will only filter people who are looking to buy things in the trade chat. So filter your trade chat according to how you want to, how you're looking to sell your Riven. If it's looking for somebody wanting to buy a Riven, or if you're just trying to filter it for the name of the weapon. Now, when you do names of the weapons, trade chat tends to go slow. I kind of keep it on want to buy, but that's just me. It's all up to you. And then again, the last thing about the trade chat is being patient. Again, trade chat is a waiting game. Don't get discouraged in trade chat because somebody's not buying your Riven right away. Now that all that's pretty much out of the way, the 4 ways to earn Rivens in the game. We know there's sorties, there's trading, there's buying, and then certain story missions in the game. You can actually earn them. Most people don't know about, some people do. But I know the Hero Quest, Chains of Hero, Octavia's Anthem, and then I believe it's Seiya's Vigil, which is the Garrett quest. If you have those frames before you complete the quest, you get a certain Riven from them. I believe Garrett's was a shotgun Riven, Octavia's I believe was a pistol or rifle, and Hero's at the time was a melee Riven, because that was when melee Rivens were first announced in the game. Now, let's actually get into making plat off of your Rivens. Now, there's 3 different things I do to make plat off of Rivens. The first part I'm going to get into is buying cheap and selling high, or as I just call them, easy flips. Now, in this scenario, Maru's Bazaar is your best friend. You can inspect players, their gear, their mastery. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, that sounds kind of shady. It's all right. Everybody's got to learn, not going to lie. But yes, buying Rivens cheap and flipping them for a profit, like, and I've done this so many times by going to Marus. Some people, like I said, I know Marus is where most newer players go to sell. And yes, some of them don't know what things are worth, but then again, some of them are just there to earn quick plat. So I've bought so many Rivens from Marus Bazaar for probably under the price that they were technically worth, and I have flipped them for so much more. And I'll post just different examples of them as we go on. But like one of them I bought was a new core that I bought for 60p, flipped it instantly without having to re-roll it for 250 plat. A Linker Riven I bought for 300 plat, flipped it for 2,000 plat. A Stubba Riven I bought for 100 plat, which is about the average price of a Stubba. And I wind up selling it for 550 plat, which is crazy for anybody trying to buy a Stubba. Bought a Bazza Riven for 700 plat, flipped it for 2,000 plat. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different scenarios that I can post. Like, I'll leave different images of it too, so you can see. And these are without re-rolling. These are just ones that I bought directly from Marus Bazaar and flipped it within a matter of seconds and even minutes in some cases for more plat than what they were actually worth, just because I managed to buy cheap and sell high. Now, I know some people are like, well, 300 plat, 700 plat, that's not cheap. Yes, I know that's not 100% cheap, but in some cases you will have to spend a bit more just to make more profit. Like I said, a Linker Riven for 300 seems like a lot of plat, but selling it for 2,000 plat is a huge profit. Same with a Bazza Riven for 700 and selling it for 2,000. And then there's other cases where I've just sold other Rivens that I have bought and re-rolled for 2,500 plat. I've sold some for over, 1,500 just by rolling Rivens that I've even myself have got from Rivens from doing the sorties and things like that. So that's another thing I really didn't get too much into, but Kuva is another thing that if you're really serious about making plat off of Rivens, be sure to farm Kuva as much as possible, because you will need to re-roll your Rivens if you're trying to sell them for God rolls. That's how you make the most plat from your Rivens, is by selling God roll stats. So again, God roll stats, that ties into the first part of it where I said know your weapons, know the stats of your weapon, and know what to roll for according to the stats of your weapon to help increase your highest stats on your weapons. Now, the second part to making plat through Rivens is by finding good deals for potential resale, or just by finding good sells. Now, what I mean by this kind of ties into buying cheap, selling high, but this isn't an easy flip. These are just Rivens that people are selling for a lower price that you probably will have to put some work into, aka meaning Kuva. You'll have to roll them in order for you to resell them for a higher price. But because the deals are so good, it's like you can't really pass them up, because at the end of the day you can make a profit. Now, yes, it will take a bit of a grind for you to farm Kuva, re-roll. Some Rivens take a lot of rolls. Some of them you may get a God roll instantly, or even an average roll. They don't even have to be God rolls for you to sell extremely high. But like in this case, I bought a Comb Riven for 50 plat, when right now Comb Rivens are selling for 300 plus. A Zenith Riven for 20 plat, which is crazy. As I've mentioned before, like I said, this also applies to selling a Euphona Riven and an Azima Riven for 1,000 plat. Now, a Euphona Riven alone is about 1,000 plat, but the person who was buying it at the time, I guess he wanted 2 Rivens to make it, to justify himself spending 1,000 plat. So I was like, you know what, here, have an Azima Riven. So I threw it in for him, but a Euphona Riven plus an Azima Riven, like, so that's 1,000 plat off that I made. I bought a Sakaris Riven for 50 plat, which again is a steal. Rubico Riven I bought for 15 plat. A Linker Riven I bought for 35 plat, and another Linker Riven I wind up picking up for 25 plat. And we all know how much Sniper Rivens are going for in this game currently right now because of the Plains of Eidolon. They're going for hundreds of plat, some even thousands, and I've sold multiple Linker Rivens for thousands of plat that I will actually post right here for you, so you can see all the different ones I've sold for 2,000 and up just by selling Linker Rivens. But that's the second way. So finding good deals for potential resale. And again, when I mean by good deals, buying cheap, but you're going to have to put in some work to farm a good roll to resell it. That's why I didn't show how much I resold these for, because Again, most of them are just work in progresses, and most of them, again, you're gonna have to roll, farm Kuva until you find a better roll on that Riven. Now, the last step to making plat in this game, and probably the most profitable of all, is Prime Day. Now, what I mean by Prime Day is, come Prime Access, every 3 months is Prime Access. We know we get a new Prime, we get new weapons. Well, always before Prime Access, they always manage to tell us what weapons are coming out for that Prime. So, buying Rivens for those Prime weapons early before they're released for the Prime will save you one and plat when you're spending plat on those Rivens, but will also make it to where when you do sell them come Prime Day, they will sell for a crazy high price. So always be sure to buy early so you can sell high later. So currently the next two weapons that are going to be primed that were shown off at TennoCon this year were the Gram Prime and the Akjagara Prime. I managed to pick up a couple Gram Primes, actually 3 in total, for about 25 plat each. I think the highest I spent on one was 50. And we know by the time the Gram gets primed, those will be selling for a crazy high price, and I'll give you some examples a little later. And then also the Akjagara Prime. I believe I picked up an Akjagara Prime for 40 plat, and I resold it. I mean, not resold it. I re-rolled it within the first roll and got a god roll on it. So now it's like I'm sitting on plat while I wait for these Prime items to be released. So a couple of examples of things like this that I did was the Akboltos. When Mirage Prime was announced to come with the Akboltos, I instantly went to Maru's Bazaar. I went to Trade Chat. I looked and checked, and I picked up an Akbolto Riven for 25 plat. The day that Mirage Prime got released, I resold that Riven for 400 plat. Another thing that I did as well was the Ballistica and Nami Skylar Prime. I wind up selling one of my personal Nami Skylar Prime Rivens whenever it got released for 350 plat, and then also I wind up buying a Nami Skylar Riven for 75 plat and selling a Ballistica Prime Riven with it for 500 plat total on Prime Access Day. So those days are always the best days to sell Rivens, actually to sell anything, and I'll cover that a little later. But the best time to sell anything, because a lot of people are either buying Prime Accesses, so they want Rivens for their weapons, and when they buy Prime Accesses, I believe you get about 2,000 plus plat with a Prime Access. So they have the money to spend, and most of them are willing to spend crazy amount of money on these Rivens. So Prime Day is always the best day to not just sell items in general, because everybody tends to have plat, but it's definitely the best day to sell your Rivens for those weapons that are getting primed. Honestly, within that whole first week, you should be good. If you're even if you're getting the Rivens from a sortie, or if you bought them up early to resell, but within a good week from Prime Day, you can sell those Rivens extremely high. That's why Piranha Rivens are still being sold for an extremely high price. Even the Destrezza Rivens people are looking for a pretty high price, because those are the two most current primed weapons right now that came out with Limbo. So those are my 3 steps, 3 different things on making quick plat in this game. A lot, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, once you get the hang of it, yes, it's pretty easy. Now, again, you'll have to spend plat, but you'll have to spend your plat to make a lot more plat. And on a side note, when you're doing, I know y'all will probably be seeing some of these trades for 2,000, 1,000, a bunch of plat. Now, the other side of that is when you sell for that much plat, there's trade tax. So 2,000 plat is about 1,000,000 credits, I believe. So you also need to farm credits in the process before you're even able to sell some of these. So always be sure to be stocked up on credits, or have a credit booster running, which go farm index, because index is the best way to do it, especially with a credit booster. If you do the medium risk index, do 2 waves of that, you get about 700,000 credits each run. So that's probably my favorite way, honestly, of farming credits, but there's a lot of other ways to do it too. But those are my 3 steps, my 3 different ways on making plat in the games, and then and then I gave you 3 steps as well on the trade chat, knowing your Rivens and knowing your weapons, in order to help you price and gauge the amount of price for your Rivens. So that's all I got for you on this video today. Like I said, I'll be making another one talking about how to make plat off of primes. And then I have another one about the mods in the game. So rare mods like drifting contact. I'll talk about vault mods like narrow-minded, different things like that I'll be covering in a third video. And then again, because all my Warframe streams are going to be on Twitch, I'll be doing more footage and more information on Warframe in this on this channel now. So I'll be having Riven reviews, I'll be having certain build reviews, I'll be doing a lot of different things, different guides, especially beginner guides, because Warframe is definitely not the most beginner friendly of all, but I will be doing that. So thank you all for watching. I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.